Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Leo Chen of Levitate Style. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the movie The Farewell. We just went to see the movie The Farewell with Aquafina, and I gotta tell you, it is amazing. I think it still has 100% review on Rotten Tomato, which is insane for that rating. Beyond that it's a good movie, I think it has a really big impact. The movie as a whole really hits home for me. It almost felt like I was watching a documentary, watching a real family, real people going through this normal struggle, and the struggle of losing someone in their family, and in this case, a grandma. I can't believe I'm watching such a normal story on the big screen. I almost felt guilty at first because it's kind of typical, normal Asian story, but yet we're watching it on the big screen in the movie theater. But I'm reminded of all these other stupid movies I've watched over the years that has no good storyline, there's nothing special about them. And so this movie has such a big impact on our community, on our society. And I think for people that are not Asian, you really get a glimpse of what real Asian culture is like on the big screen. This movie was basically like my experience going back to Hong Kong and visiting my family and interacting with different family members in a different culture, in the Eastern culture, which is very different from the way things are in America. The movie definitely had a few points where it almost made me cry, but I think walking out of the theater, really reflecting my own experience, it made me really sad, to be honest. Just thinking about my own experience of, in the past 6, 7, 8 years, I lost my grandmother. Then 2 years later, I lost my grandpa. And then my god-grandmother, who I also grew up with very closely. She was actually just like a neighbor next door, but she took care of me. She basically took me in as a grandkid. And I remember my first experience with my god-grandmother having McDonald's, going to the buffet. I remember so many first experiences as a kid and hanging out with my god-grandmother, and she would teach me things like be calm, be smart, all those things when you're a kid. The movie really shows what it's like to be an immigrant in a way. Because when you move from all your family members in Asia, in my case in Hong Kong, I moved to America when I was 10. All of a sudden, all my family members were not really in my life anymore. I had so many aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, and all of a sudden it's just me and my family of 4. I think a lot of people can relate to this, that immigrants just don't have the time and the luxury, because plane tickets are expensive, and when you go to Asia, you want to spend at least 10 days, 2 weeks. You just don't really have the time and luxury to go back often. And when I say often, I went back, the first time I went back after moving to America was when I was 16. So that was 6 years after I've been in New York City. By then I've gone from 4th grade, to full-grown teenager. And that's 6 years that I didn't really get to see my grandparents. 6 years I didn't really get to see them. So the movie really touches part of that it's not easy. You don't just go back. You don't just see your family. When in the American culture, a lot of people go back at least once a year for Christmas. But for me, it's even amazing to go back to Hong Kong once every 2 years. It's crazy. It's definitely a real struggle that a lot of immigrant families have to deal with. I didn't really have a choice. I was a kid. I was a teenager. I didn't make money. I didn't have the luxury of just want to go home. I couldn't just be like, hey, pay for I didn't just tell my parents hey, you should pay for my plane ticket. I want to go back to Hong Kong. It's not that simple. My parents didn't have that much money to just have us go back to Hong Kong every year, have us have these vacations. Later on, when I started working, had full-time jobs and had money, that's when I really make this choice to try to go back as often as I can. So the first time I went back, it was when I was 16. I was just a teenager, and I got to spend like a whole month of my summer vacation to really spend a lot of time with my grandparents, to spend time with my god-grandmother. And I remember that summer, like we did so much, we hung out a lot. And then when I graduated college, that was when I was 22. So 6 years from the time I moved to America, 10 years old, 16 I went back. And then when I graduated college, 22, another 6 years has gone by. That's when my grandmother passed away. It was tough in one way because I wasn't that close to my grandmother because she spoke another Chinese dialect that I didn't speak. So throughout the years when I was growing up, I didn't really speak the same Chinese language as her. So we've always had communication issues, and I really wish that we could have communicated more, understand each other more than just, hey, come eat. Going back for the funeral was challenging. And then 2 years after that, my grandpa passed away. So going back again, and it's, on one hand, obviously it's very, very sad. But then on the other hand, it's also like, sometimes it is these big events that brings all of the family members together. And so that is one of the rare times, rare chances that everyone is together in one place. And it's crazy to think that that is kind of reality for a lot of immigrant families. You come for the funeral, a very sad time, and then you do have some days that obviously you're happy because you're reunited with your family members. Everyone is here, everyone's gathered, you create new memories for this generation, and you create this bond even though everyone's everywhere. And you want to keep creating these memories and have this bond that can live on for the next generation. And also part of the movie is about the fact that Asian families hide their feelings. This burden, they hide the fact that someone has cancer. I'll confirm that this happened to me. Like, we've had family members, I think, had cancer and they fought it, they beat it, but it was never ever talked about. It's so different because in America, you know, we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We have all the pink stuff to support this cause, to beat this thing. And, you know, we celebrate people that survive cancer, but at least in my experience with my family members is that they brush it off. You know, I've brought it up a few times just to ask, like, oh, so did you had cancer and you beat it? Because I genuinely wanted to celebrate like this thing. And they just quickly brush it off. Oh, don't talk about it. Oh yeah, no, it was no big deal. And it's such a weird thing in the Asian culture that they don't want to share this burden. I don't know if it's the right word. They don't want to be ashamed. They don't want people to look at them differently. They don't want others to have this burden. They just want to deal with it by themselves. And that movie really reminded me of that. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. All in all, it's such a great movie to go watch. I think movies like this are so important because it tells real stories in a real setting, and I think it really shows you what it's like to be with family members in Asia, in China. And I think the more and more these movies are out there and other people are seeing this for the first time, they can understand our culture in a new way. They can appreciate the differences and the similarities in a new way. And this is why these movies and this Asian representation is so important today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is just me talking about my own personal life and my own story. And I hope to do more of these, just telling these real stories about my experience and how it relates to things that are happening right now